Welcome to another episode of Shot Clock Scribbles. This interview was conducted on the 28th. That's on Saturday of December. I sit down with Mark Haynes. We talk about Mike Brown getting fired on Friday, the day before, what's going on with Foxy and his current contract situation, his upbringing in the city of Fresno, his professional career in being a journalist with the Sac Observer covering the Sacramento Kings, relationship with his brother Chris, gives us some insight on his game day routine and what that all looks like, where he thinks the Kings will end up at the end of the season. And lastly, we shed some light on the Fresno Pro-Am that happens once a year in the city of Fresno. Let's get it. All right, Mark, thanks so much for joining me, Tendai Mkandarire, on the Shot Clock Scribbles podcast. This is episode number 30, the last one before the end of the year. A little quick intro for Mark. Mark is the host of the Believe in Kings pod, and he's also one of three hosts in the show, Three in the Paint podcast. Good name, by the way. I really like that name, with Leo and Jeremiah in Sacramento. Mark is also a journalist covering the Sacramento Kings for the Sac Observer. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thank you. It's an honor. I appreciate the wonderful introduction, and I'm so happy I could be your last guest before 2024 ends. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you, Mark. First things first, let's get straight to business. Kings fired Mike Brown yesterday. I want to get your raw emotional thoughts as far as what just went down yesterday right here in Sacramento.
All the speculations and the talk has been De'Aaron Fox or trading Sabonis. It wasn't much complaining about Mike Brown. Mike Brown had to work with what he had with this team. This team needs improvements, especially when it comes to the bench. So when I seen that the first thing that happened out of all this commotion we've been hearing the last few weeks, I was like, whoa. I didn't see it coming. When I thought about it, I was like, I understand. I'm not saying it's the right choice, but something had to happen. And the coach is always the safe pick. You're not going to easily trade away your franchise player. Even though Mike Brown got the extension and all, Mike Brown would be first to go.
That's always the narrative in the NBA, right? The coach is always the first to go. They always get the blame. It's a star-driven league, right, Mark? So players can dictate if they're not getting along with the coach. A good example is Giannis and Adrian Griffin last year. I always like to point out that one. It sounds like what you're saying is a change was imminent. Didn't see this one coming, but it happened as the Kings are on a 5-game skid right here at home.
Absolutely. I think things would have been worse as far as how fans looked at the situation. I'm sure it's happened before, especially with bad teams, but this is a team that prior to the season, people had them thought bringing in DeMar DeRozan would be enough to get them to the conference finals in the West or whatever.
Yeah.
And with nobody really, when you look at the standings, as bad as the Kings has been, they're still in position to get a play-in spot. They're even in position to still make the playoffs at this point. So this move was to try to restore hope. Within 5 straight is tough anytime you lose 5 straight, but 5 straight at home, that's a big deal. And as one of the media members or whatever, and seeing from the first loss to the 5th loss, even in the press conferences,
what's the mood like in there?
it's been ugly. It's gotten uglier and uglier each game. So when I think I thought back on when the Kings lost to the San Antonio Spurs on that missed box out on a freak, one of his stars or whatever, but he didn't mention his name. It was a level of respect to where the person he was talking about was DeMar DeRozan. He was like, DeMar has to double Victor when he helps bonus out. He never said DeMar DeRozan. He just said that guy, the guy next to him, has to do that. Everybody understood what he meant. And then he called out Sabonis later, but he didn't say Sabonis' name. Game, they lose back to the Lakers, and now it turns, the narrative in the room turns from we gotta we're fighting, we're this and that, so it was like I don't know what to do. And it wasn't just Mike, it was De'Aaron and Keegan. It was multiple people who were just like, I don't know what we need to do to fix this. Then it comes to Thursday's game where Mike Brown clearly calls out De'Aaron Fox, and
Mhm.
that was something I've never seen a coach really do in that way, and it ended well.
Yes.
So from that point, I was like, "Nah, something has to happen." I knew it would be this weekend. I would say that, not to, obviously,
Yeah,
it's easy to sound like a genius on hindsight, but
for
I
sure.
felt like something was going to happen this weekend. I thought maybe De'Aaron would make a threat of, "I wanna be traded." Like, I
Yeah.
didn't think it'll be a move made, but I thought he might say, "I wanna be traded," because the way Mike called him out, I thought it was wrong, I thought it was unnecessary,
Mhm. I agree.
I
Mhm.
did not think I will wake up Thursday, and I was actually taking a nap. I'll wake up or Friday, and
Yes.
Brown was gone. That
Yeah.
was I was blindsided.
I think you and a lot of people, myself included, were very surprised that it happened at this time. Yeah, like you said, after each loss and just listening to all the post-game comments by Mike, I always do. And the theme that I've just continuously get from them is just something needs to change. Calling out his players. They need to box out more. They need to do this and that. I have a quote here from the work you just published yesterday. You have a Mike Brown quote on here, and I'll go ahead and read it out. It says, quote, "You should be hugged up to your man at the three-point line," a frustrated Brown said. "Everybody should. And why there was a closeout by Fox, I am not sure. I have to go back and watch the tape. We taught our guys, you can't give up a three. Can't give up a three. Can't give up a three. Stay connected." Closed quote. Mike was definitely ripping at Fox. I honestly think that this should just be kept in house.
Yep,
If you're gonna call him out, just call him out in the locker
yep.
room. I just saw a video of Mike and Foxy talking before Mike got the can yesterday. Not sure what was said in those conversations, but if I was Fox, I would be pretty pissed about the way my coach is treating me.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like I don't know if the front office talked to Fox. Obviously, Fox and Sabonis, they're cornerstones. Switching gears and talking about this subject a little bit more, Mark. I don't know how much you've heard, but I've heard the Sabonis and Mike Brown relationship had gone sour
Mhm.
towards the last tenure of Mike's time. Can you maybe speak more about that if you have any insight for us?
Yeah, I've heard that their relationship isn't where it should have been. I haven't heard a lot specifically about Sabonis, but I've definitely heard the same sentiment with multiple. I actually thought this 5-game losing streak, it was like things were rocky between him and multiple players,
Yeah.
and this broke it. And it was, I think he lost the locker room. I think the team,
Mhm.
it turns into the players versus the coaching staff,
Yeah.
led by Mike
Mhm.
Brown. I think it was a big separation. I do think it was time for a change. Fortunately for me, I'm not the guy that calls the shots on who goes and who stays.
Fair enough.
Something had to happen because this wasn't
Mhm.
working. You had the last few weeks, you have Keon Ellis,
Mhm.
who to most people, he's been one of their most consistent contributors.
Yeah.
Every time he's in the game, I think he still probably leads the team in plus minus. And
Mhm.
he just kind of just goes out there and it seems like he fits. But then he'll get
Mhm.
a DNP or he'll play.
Yep.
I think Thursday he played 13 minutes. And who knows the relationship they have. We
Mhm.
seen last year, I remember the clip with, you know, it's okay for coaches to get on your players. It's okay, coaches that cuss.
Yeah.
I found it strange that between Malik Monk and Mike Brown. I thought Malik
Mm.
Monk a starter a long time ago, or at least not even if it was a full-time starter. There were plenty of games where, Herter was hurt or, maybe
Yep.
Keon give him a start here and there, but he would
Yeah.
never get it. Then you take it back to the Rashawn Holmes days and stuff like that. It's been a trend each year from Rashawn Holmes to Davion Mitchell to now Keon Ellis or whatever, where some guys might just don't mix. And
Yeah.
I think it finally trickled into the starters. That's where it's a problem. I think you can have an issue with guys who are small contracts coming off the bench, but when it comes to your franchise players, I think you can't have those issues.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I'm not so sure if the coaching style or just the messaging that Mike was having with the players was not meshing up with the players at the end. So yeah, a crazy ending there. But what are your hopes for Doug Christie as he's going to be the interim head coach for the foreseeable future?
I'm excited. Doug Christie is a like really cool dude. Like outside of just being a Sacramento Kings legend, they've kind of been grooming him for this type of opportunity. And I think that's the one thing the Sacramento Kings as an organization has done well in the Vivek era is, they gave those. You have Vlade in the front office. Doug Christie was assistant coach.
Mhm.
Yeah, Bobby Jackson was assistant coach who took over the Stockton Kings, and now he's over in
Right.
Philadelphia. They've done a great job of continuing to give former players opportunities. And Doug Christie, the unfortunate part about it is he's coming into a bad situation. It's called spade a spade. They don't have
Mhm.
just fired the coach who was trying to what identity he thought they should have. And now 30 games into the season, you have to start over essentially. And you're starting over with a
Mhm.
new coach. Obviously, they're going to probably do a lot of the same things that they've been doing. But now Doug has to come in and say, do I think this guy should start? Do I think this guy should have been playing more minutes? Everything changes and you have to read what he's doing. But I think the thing that he has on his side is all the players respect him. I think they trust
Mhm.
him. He just has to work with what he has and hopefully things go well, boost this roster, and maybe they turn things around and maybe they can't right now. But it's a tough job, but it's a great opportunity for Doug, and I think he'll do well. And I think if this ain't a long term thing, I do think one day he'll be a head coach.
I definitely agree with you. I watched Doug in the early part of the season when the Kings took on the Chinese national team. I was able to sit pretty close and take a look at the players actually buying into what he's saying. Everyone was listening. He just seems very friendly, even with my interactions with him
Yep.
every now and then. He's just a uplifting guy, and it really sounds like the players are going to be listening to him. One thing I wanted to talk to you about before I move on with the subject is Keegan Murray, Mark. There's been a lot of talk about Keegan is an untouchable player. We're not going to let him go. This year, there was a lot of high hopes of him just with his trajectory and where he's going. But it really sounds like this season, the Kings are really emphasizing, and Mike was emphasizing rebounding. We all know that Keegan is not really having an amazing year. Let's
Right.
just call it how it
Yep.
is. Any thoughts on what's going on with Keegan? My thought before the season even started was the whole DeMar DeRozan thing was going to make Keegan take a back seat and not shine as much as he would have in the past. Can you talk to me a little more about Keegan?
Yeah, being a young player, I thought this would be the year he would step into averaging close to 20 points, maybe anywhere from a consistent 16 and up. Then you get the news that DeMar DeRozan, one of the best scorers in the NBA, almost 2 decades now. So now, as a young guy, I think he looked at DeMar. He said it. He understood that now I'm going to be a power forward. His focus went to getting bigger, getting stronger.
Mhm.
He came back bigger. He's came back a better power forward, but it had impacted his shooting. And
Mhm.
he doesn't believe that it's because of his size, like, putting on muscle or anything like that. With how things were being ran of the offense or whatever, is De'Aaron's go touch the ball a lot, Sabonis go touch the ball a lot,
Mhm.
Rosen go touch the ball a lot.
Mhm.
It got to a point, especially in this bad stretch where he ends up starting. It got to a point where
Mhm.
4 guys dominate the ball. It's a lot of one pass and shoot. And one thing
Catches praise. Mhm.
I've known a lot of, coaches to talk about and players as well is like the hockey assist. I thought that should be mentioned more. Doug Christie, a former player, and being
Mhm.
somebody similar, I would say he's similar to the role that Keegan has with this team. Doug wasn't
Ooh, wow.
the guy, depending on which team, but you got Mike Bibby, you got Bobby Jackson coming off the bench,
Mhm.
you got C Webb, all those guys, Stojakovic, all those guys are going to get touches. I think Doug
Yeah.
Christie, obviously as an assistant, I'm sure he's talking to Keegan, but you can't really step on the head coach's toe. And now as
Mhm.
a head coach and having the control to say, "Hey, Keegan, this is what I think you need to do. This is some of the things I did to be impactful throughout the game. How play both sides of the court, how to manage your
Mhm.
body and
Mhm.
stuff like that." I think Doug Christie
Mhm.
being the head coach is gonna really help Keegan, and I think with shooting, I think Keegan is a great shooter. I think he's just
Mhm,
been in a slump, and I think it's been in his
mhm.
head. So, like a fresh
Nah.
start, I think we see a new Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I actually didn't even think about that until you just mentioned it, but yeah, Doug wasn't the man on his team. I think he probably averaged like 5 points, 4 rebounds, close to 2 steals in his tenure with the NBA. Was with the Kings from 2000 to '05. He was on several different teams,
Mhm.
more than 5 teams. I totally see what you're saying with that role that Keegan has uh, with the team because his capability on defense. I mean, let's just be honest. He can guard 1 through 5.
Yeah.
We've seen him lock up step. We've seen him guard the other team's best player
Yep.
night in and night out, especially in the West here, when there's so many good players every single night. And he has that capability of shooting the 3 ball at a high volume and also at a nice clip.
Yeah.
Had his career high against Utah last year, 47 points.
Mhm.
Right here at home was just shooting and lights out from three. So I think, yeah, he's definitely more than capable of being a great player for the Kings. And speaking about what you were talking about earlier too, then we'll move on to our next subject. But the Kings right now, 13 and 18, they have a 41% winning record. They're 12 games back of the first spot. 2-5 in their division, not good at all. And they've lost so many games at home that makes them 12 and 6, 6 and 12 at home. And it's just not good because you have to take care of home. And if you're not winning your home games, then that's just not a good recipe. A lot of fans are very excited for the new era of Doug Christie and just seeing something different. Devin Carter today for the Stockton Kings. If you guys are listening to this, this would have probably came out a little bit later, but today is Saturday and Devin Carter is going to be playing in his first game with the Stockton Kings before he gets ramped up. He just got cleared to play. How does he look? Have you seen him out there pregame warming up, get some shots? How does he look, Mark?
Yeah, no, Devin Carter, we haven't seen much of him, but I think purposely they've kind of hid him from us on the drill.
Mhm.
We see him do a lot of
Okay.
things to try to see if that shoulder is good. So he's
Mhm.
doing a lot of big man drills and stuff.
Yeah,
Grab an offensive rebound, put it up, take a bump or whatever. So we see a lot of that.
I see.
But he's another guy that he's coming into it. I feel like similar to Doug Christie, he's coming into a
Yeah.
where it's tough. It's gonna be a lot of pressure on him, especially
Hmm.
when you have fans already questioning why do we draft an injured player? But we could have had Dalton Connect, Jared McCain, a Sacramento guy, or even the other
Yeah.
Sacramento, Jalen Wells, who went in the second
Yeah.
round.
Yeah. To
Those
Memphis.
dudes
Mhm.
are performing well. So there's
Yeah.
gonna be some pressure on him to, he wants to come in and obviously be himself, but he's gonna have to play with a little chip on his shoulder because he's gonna
Definitely.
feel, the pressure of I have to live up to what everybody's expecting me to be. But
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think and then with a team that's struggling, that doesn't help again.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be very interesting. But I think, I was that's why I was kind of waiting on. I was just broke news to me, man. So you got a future.
Oh.
I was looking, I was like, I think
For
Devin
sure.
Carter's gonna play or whatever, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure, and I was like, I'll go if he's playing, so I guess I'll be heading up there shortly.
Ah. Funny how that works.
Yeah.
You have to let me know if you do end up going, how he looks out there. A lot of fans are very excited. A lot of players that are not the key players of the Kings are going to have to hit the reset button because now you got to impress Doug Christie, right?
Yeah.
New coach, apart from DeMar DeRozan, Fox, Sabonis, Monk,
Mhm.
apart from those guys, everybody else, man, you got to work for those minutes. We're going to switch gears a little bit now. Talk about your upbringing here, Mark. Growing up in Fresno,
Whereas
how did the city shape up your love for basketball and storytelling there in the Central Valley?
that's a great question because that's exactly what it was. We seen each other in person. I'm 6 foot, and when I was in shape, I'm out of shape now. I got dad weight on me now, but when I was in shape, I was about 210 pounds, just
Mhm.
muscle. I was a football player, but
Ah, okay.
basketball has always been my favorite sport. I've always loved basketball, but I just had a football body. I was better at football because of the way I was
Uh-huh.
built. So
Mhm.
it was like for my hometown friends. Well, my friends know I love basketball, but people that knew me from being a good football player in the city or whatever, they was like, "How the heck you end up covering basketball?" But basketball has always been my first love. Growing up, I've never owned a football jersey. My first basketball jersey was a Dan Marley jersey, Phoenix Suns, and then I got a Penny Hardaway one.
Oh,
Funny, I got
yeah.
the Dan Marley one. I didn't even know who Marley was. I thought the name was cool.
But
And,
the jersey was clean.
yeah, he ended up being all right. I
Uh,
knew Penny. Penny was my guy, and I fell in love with basketball at a very young age. And so
mhm,
because I wasn't a great basketball player, like I played, I knew my future was if I had a future, it would be football. So
mm,
all I could do was talk about basketball because I couldn't play it at a high level. And that's kind of
mhm,
where I developed me and my brother, Chris Haynes. We would
mhm.
play NBA Live was the game back then before NBA 2K
That's
came out.
right. That's right.
We would play the game and we would as if like, if I'm Penny and he's Shaq or whatever, and I have a good game as Penny, he would interview me at a post game. Like we're faking post game interviews before. Like we would never just play. It was always like a storyline that we was creating. And this is like early 90s before it's even in
Mhm.
the video game. So 2K, Ronnie 2K, he might owe us some money and we don't even know it.
That's funny.
Storylines has always been a thing we practice and play with and dreamed of doing this.
Mhm.
And I didn't know I would have an opportunity to become a journalist. And I didn't write outside of the essay in school or whatever. So I hated writing.
Yeah.
My brother broke into the business first. It took a few years before I even thought about trying.
Okay.
I was working at a water delivery company, and my manager and I tell, "Oh yeah, that's my brother on TV. Oh, my cousin is this person. My
Uh,
we know him. I got two friends, Brooke and Robin Lopez, both from Fresno, California. Quincy Palmer,
that's right.
all the same. We're a year apart. We've been
Yeah.
friends since Fresno." He was like, "Why are you working
That's
here?"
awesome.
I was like, "No, I need a
Mm.
job." He was like, "But you should be like, why you not doing what everybody else around you do?" And that kind of made me think about, and that's how I decided to see where this takes me.
That was actually leading up to my next question. How did you land your role at the Observer?
So at the Observer, I was actually out of work at the time. I was in this business, you're always looking for the next opportunity or better
Mhm.
opportunity or whatever. And
Sure.
opportunities come and go quickly. Mark Spears over at ESPN
Yeah.
randomly called me. Randomly, and he was like, "Hey, what you doing?" I was like, "Just chilling." I was like, I'm sitting around looking. He was like, "You want to work?" I'm like, "Of course." Like, what do you mean? And he was like, "Yeah, this the Sacramento Observer. They're looking for a sports writer." He was like, "I think you should apply. I think you'll be perfect for the opportunity." He was like, "Yeah, I know the publisher. I'll give you his number. Let him know who you are. You interested in your story and everything." He's like, "I think you got a good shot." We had a conversation, and I think I had to do a couple of sample writings, articles, and
Okay.
I was a part of the team shortly after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice story. Congratulations on your role. It sounds like what you're saying, Mark, is just with the environment that you're in, the connections that you have, the level of the sport that you've always had, an opportunity fell in your lap and you're just like, hey, why don't I take a chance at this? Sounds like you enjoy doing what you do for a passion that you really enjoy, right?
Yeah, nah, that's been it, man. And
Yeah.
really blessed me to meet a lot of people who have been very important in my life and in my career. It's nothing but God. Once I noticed, all right, I know these people, I'm connected to this person, God's
Mhm.
phone. Cause like even before I got into journalism, I was a club promoter. So
Okay.
I knew a lot of players. I knew a lot of agents and like all these people in the business. I just never did the work to bring it all together and I'm a professional. And
Yeah.
once I understood you have opportunities around you, but now you have to do the work. Like me making connections have always been easy. I could connect with a lot of people and
Yeah.
quickly. I think I'm a likable person. Once you get it, that's where I realized like, oh, I love this. I love
Mhm.
this because I love the work. I love the grind. And although I'm connected to these people, my brother's one of the biggest NBA journalists in the league.
That's right. Chris
It
Haynes.
it doesn't just help me. I can't wake up and
100%.
I have
100%.
to do like so much. A lot of people, and that was the first stigma I felt I had to erased when I really got into the business was I
Mhm.
had to prove that I'm not here just because of my brother. We don't share contacts. We don't
Mhm.
share. We talk, obviously. We share information, but we compete.
Yeah.
And that he wants me to be the best I can, just like I want him to be the best. But I'm
Mhm.
trying to beat him every time I can, and vice versa.
Sibling rivalry.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
So, covering the NBA fuels a lot of kid in me. I compete in football, basketball, or anything right now. My knees are, I can still now, being a journalist has given me that joy. And then it comes with basketball, and that's what makes it the most fulfilling thing ever. It's like I want to be the best. Like I want to be able to really, I also want to be an avenue for others to succeed as well. Especially people that look like me and you with our skin colors and
Mhm.
stuff. I
100%.
I don't have a degree. Not a thing where you need a degree. Obviously, a degree helps
Mhm.
you get step
Sure.
up that you can get. But it's follow your heart. If this is your passion and what you really want to do, think of it from a professional perspective of what you're trying to accomplish. I love covering it, but I'm not going
Yeah.
to the Sacramento Kings games or any games just for the fun. I get so crazy in my head with work. At times I forget, dude, you're living a dream right now. Like,
Yeah.
enjoy it, but work is what motivates me, the will to try to be better every single day. That's what made me love my job, just like I loved basketball as a kid.
Love that. A couple of things to dissect from what you just said there. First thing is you didn't get this because of connections that you've had. You've had to work your butt off. A lot of times people see your columns or they see your work or they might hear your podcast. They don't get to see all the grind behind the screen, right? There's a lot of writing, deadlines that you got to meet for the newspaper, everything that entails with your job. Nothing comes easy.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. Second point is I appreciate you joining the pod. Trying to help out others, for the people that look like us, brown folks, people of color,
Mhm.
to be in this space and just covering the game and what we love to do. Really appreciate you even jumping on the pod, man.
No doubt. Anytime, man. We'll do this again for sure.
100%. For those that don't know, Mark is a brother of Chris Haynes, the TNT insider. Really great story. Graduated college at 27, was able to work for the Blazers early on in his career, went over to Cleveland. His big break didn't come until the return of LeBron James when things got heightened a little bit. He covered KD coming to the Warriors.
Mhm.
He was able to move out here, doing big things now. It's great to see him in a space like that for you and your family as well. That's big
Yeah.
time. And for people like myself, it gives you hope. He's from Fresno. That's not too far away.
Yeah.
He's a person of color. I'm a person of color. Hey, man, maybe one day I can be in those shoes.
Absolutely.
It gives hope and motivation to get to where you want to go.
No, absolutely. I tell people all the time what makes a expert, right? In my opinion, in order to be an expert in, let's say, covering the NBA,
Mhm.
the up I have on everybody is that I have more access. I have
Mhm.
more opportunities to search out information. If you had that same opportunity or whatever, which you can get that same opportunity, now you become an expert. When people be like, "Oh, you're this and that," I'm like, "I'm blessed. I work hard." That's all.
Mhm.
But I don't think what I do and what I'm trying to become. I don't think I'm special or that I'm the only person that could do this. A lot of
Mhm.
people, you have to be motivated, you have to be dedicated and stay, focused on what you're doing. That's the hard part.
A lot of
Yeah,
distractions.
it's always going, if you can focus on what you want to do, you can become whatever you want to be, especially in this business. Like, it's a lot of times a Saturday night game, we wait for the players to talk.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, the parties is going on outside.
That's true.
Your future wife could be right outside. You might not catch her right then, but if to be is meant to be, you just
Yep.
have to be focused on the things you desire, the things you want, especially when it
Mhm.
comes in this profession. If you can do that, if you can focus and lock in and keep doing everything to get better, you could be me, you could be better than me as you want to be. And I'm
Yeah.
always looking to help others. I would love to replace Stephen A as the top NBA TV guy or whatever, but I would probably equally love if I found that person and if I helped that person
Mm.
become that. You know,
Mhm.
my goals is wide range and it's open. I want to see people be successful. I want to see people doing what they love.
Love
Give that
that.
app. I'm always down to help.
Mark, what's the best part of your job?
The best part. I'll say this from a shallow perspective. One of the coolest things,
Okay.
and it started recently, is
Mhm.
people know who
Okay.
you are, especially like I said, I'm from Fresno, California, originally from Sacramento. I've been here close to 20 years now.
I
You
see.
know, in Fresno, if I go to the store or whatever, I'm gonna see somebody that's gonna call my name and want to
Yeah.
talk. I'm avoiding people. That was one of my favorite things about living in Sacramento. I was like, man, I could go pump gas. I ain't got
Okay.
to because I'm really antisocial.
Introvert?
Yeah.
Nope.
Even though this job, I have to.
You have
So people stop me and be like, "Hey, Mark, I watch your pound," or "Mark, I like your article." And everybody's random to me because I don't know a lot of people. It's cool because it used to be, "Hey, you're Chris' brother." People would be like, "Are you Chris Haynes?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm Mark." They're like, "Oh,
Ah.
all right." But now people are recognizing me, and that's really cool.
It's speaking about your work. Let's talk about your game day routines. I want to give a shine on that. Let people know for anybody that's hearing Mark in his seat right now or just has big dreams of being in the industry. Can we take a look at what your game day routine might look like?
Well, that's one, and I'm glad this is a question because I have to
Mm.
improve on this. I blame my kids for my lack of consistency. None of them busting the road right now or whatever.
Uh-huh.
A regular game day, I usually get
Let's say it's a 7 o'clock game
7
on
o'clock.
a weekday.
Oh, 'cause I
Mhm.
had weekend games. There is no routine on weekends. The early games, I'm just trying to get there. That's it.
3 p.m.s. Yep.
7 o'clock game, especially now. I
Hmm.
didn't have to follow the game. Obviously, I followed it as a fan, but I didn't have to
Hmm.
follow it the way I am this season. Now I gotta be
Got
able to
it.
talk about what's going on in depth, what I think, and blah blah blah. It's around 4 o'clock, the late
Hmm.
start. I got the kids, they're chilling, running around while I'm trying to study what's going on. I try to figure out my own predictions, and I'm looking up the other team's stats and checking out the injury report. If I see guys that I'm connected with that are injured, I'm reaching out to agents,
Hmm.
figure out, oh, your guy is questionable. Is Keegan's listed as questionable today? Is he go play? I'm hunting information like that. I'm trying to, oh, Keegan is, planning to go out to warm up and he'll see from there. I'm kind of trying to break news before heading up there. If
Got
I
it.
can, I'll put it out. If I can't, bam, I took my first L of the day, first quarter. You get there and Mike Brown talks at 5:50. Well, sheesh. Yeah, man,
Might get used to it,
like
but yeah,
so
the coach.
Doug Christie's going
That's
at
right.
5:15 every day,
Yeah.
5:15, and the visit is 5:30. I may
Okay.
go in, depending on my mindset, I may go in and talk to the coaches if I feel like it's important time. Other than that,
Mhm.
I'm on the court. So again, like I'm there, and a lot of people, when we're on the court, it looks like we're
Mhm.
just watching the players warm up, which most people are.
Mhm.
I'm watching them, but I'm also looking to see who's here, which agents are here, or who do I need to introduce myself to this person or that person. It's what I use the floor for. I'm like working it, but I'm also recording videos to make it look like I'm not just standing there. Like more
Yeah.
stalking than
More.
anything. I use like following up to the game. I'm trying to connect with people. You can see a regular looking person and it's somebody important. He was a you see a guy, hey, how's it going, man? I think my brother told me, he was like, that's such and such agent. I was like, no, I'm like cool with that dude. I don't even know his name. Like, so,
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm like really focused on like I try to
Okay.
get to know like as many people as I can because you never know how they can
Mhm.
help you later on or just or how you can
Exactly.
help them. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times we'll reach out to a journalist and say, "Hey, my guy needs this," or "Do you want to do a story on this?" or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm doing that till game, and then I'll go back. Oh, this is funny. This is good insight.
Let's hear it.
I ain't gonna get in trouble, but they'll probably say something. They serve us food in the
Okay.
diner. They serve us food.
Okay.
They give us the worst food. Oh my
What?
gosh! And the arena has decent food. The
Oh,
arena,
exactly. All local.
yeah, maybe they don't like us, but And it's always like something random. Every day I go in, I try it all the time. Yeah, whatever's out there, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
I haven't had meatloaf in years. They
Okay.
served us meatloaf, and I don't even know if it qualified as meatloaf, but the best thing they give us on a consistent basis is at halftime, we get hot dog. The buns was like,
That's unacceptable.
yeah, but they got it down this year. So I gotta figure out who's in charge because the buns is soft now. But yeah, I'm like every now and then, it's been about 2 or 3 times out of
Yeah.
the 3 years I've been covering the Kings, it's been about 2 or 3 times where the food was decent. Every other time, it's like, "What are we eating? This is nuts."
Yeah.
Yeah, once I'm done being a connoisseur of whatever food they give us, it's usually around there, that's when I head up to the media booth, and
Okay.
that's what when I seen you at the game, I had chicken
Yeah.
strips. They have chicken strips, and that's why I was walking around.
For the
Yeah,
game.
that's why I'm heading to the booth, and then I'm locking into the game.
I hope they serve you guys better food. It seems like this season it's a little bit better, but
Yeah.
it sounds like some improvements can be made
And
from the
hopefully
kitchen
they
there.
don't kick me out because I'm talking about their food.
It's just a little nudge. You want to
That's
hurt
it.
too much. All right. I appreciate you breaking that down, Mark. One thing I want to jump on, because I've heard you talk about it several times, the players' agents. It sounds like a lot of connections could be made with the players' agents. On a typical night, how many agents do you typically see?
I was
The number could fluctuate.
for me, probably about 2
Two or
yeah,
three.
3. Bill Duffy, our agency. Rich Paul, he
Okay.
comes down, represents De'Aaron, obviously. I think some guys that's there, like, regularly. But
Okay. Got it.
for sure about 2 to 3 agents.
Oh.
When DeMar DeRozan's agent also
Mhm.
represents Damian Lillard,
Mhm.
he's there. It's usually about 2 or 3, at a
Okay.
game. You go to a Warriors or Lakers game, it's a lot more, but with the Kings,
Yeah.
probably about 2 or 3.
That's good to know. It sounds like building rapport with these agents can yield you some success now and then also later as well. Or like you said, a two-way street.
Yeah.
Maybe they might need me down the road. Here's a question for you. Let's say you want to interview a certain player. Let's just say Scotty Barnes from the Toronto Raptors is going to be here in a couple of days. Maybe you've been wanting to ask him some questions. Do you have to go through the agent before they even land or when they get here to get some reporting with him? How would that work?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
The correct way would be to go through the team's PR.
Okay.
They handle a lot of the interviews and stuff, or yeah, most of them during the season. If you have like a relationship with the agent, they can overstep that boundary and get that
Okay.
step. So if you have a good relationship, all right, I told my client, just go talk to him. He's good. The correct way would be to send an email, or if you could get a phone number to call the team PR, and they'll set it up in the same way or whatever. Because
Okay.
I think they still check with the agent, or it's cool. But it is
Okay.
that's why relationships is super important. Because you need a cheat code, more often than
Exactly. Actually, leading up to my next question, in building relationships, part of your job is building trust and rapport with players, staff. It sounds like the PR of the team is the mediator
yeah.
between conversation. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. And so going back on the building relationships in the space, building rapport with players, trust is a big thing. Obviously, your brother is doing very good for himself in that aspect as well with players, coaches, and other media professionals as well. Could be a beat writer from the Denver Nuggets. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you build that trust and rapport with various people?
Absolutely. Your colleagues are equally important to what happened with Mike Brown and De'Aaron. You don't want to, there's a lot of times where people report things and maybe they're wrong. You don't want to be that guy that I'm going to throw you under the bus or whatever, fizzle out. But you want to, it's important to build relationships with them too, because, it's opportunities. You could, if you have or a podcast, you could have them on as a guest on the show that they work for is hiring. Maybe they work for the radio. I think that I've been able to balance that well because, my brother, like I said, we're brothers. We compete. We got to beat him. I tell him to his face or anybody, I want to be better than you. But
Yeah.
I love my brothers. Never like, I want to see you do bad. It's the same with the rest of the guys in media. No, I want to beat them all. We don't exchange sources. We talk about things and say things in confidence that You wouldn't leak or do that. It's
Mhm.
part of building trust. Here in Sacramento, there's not a single person that I could think of off the top of my head. Other
Mm.
places, I could point some people out, but here in Sacramento, man, everybody's great,
I love
to
that.
the smallest persons.
Sacramento is just one of those cities we don't get a lot of love. Everybody calls us the little brother of the Bay
Yeah,
Area.
yeah.
Obviously, the Kings are a lot of the jokes right now in the NBA, but Sacramento isn't as bad as people think of it.
No, since I got there, I moved there when I was 18. Loved it from the start. I moved away once. I lived in the Bay for about a year and a half. I went to Fresno for a year, but when I left, I was like, I have to go back to Sacramento. Like Sacramento place for me.
The nine ones,
Yeah.
I love that, Mark. Well, I wanted to shine some light on the Fresno scene, the Fresno Pro-Am that's been around since two. I would like you to share some memorable moments and its impact on the local basketball community. For those that don't know, the Fresno Pro-Am Basketball League was founded by brothers Alton and Ryan Williams and Seth Stanley to bring high-level basketball competition to Fresno. It's modeled itself after like the Drew League down in LA. The Fresno Pro-Am offers a unique platform where current and former NBA players, NCAA stars, and local high school, college athletes could compete together.
And yeah, like I said, shout out to Alton Williams. He's been the guy that put it all together. And I went to the finale this past season, and each years I just kept missing it. I've been talking to him for a few years. I'm like, I'm coming down. I ended up coming to the biggest one, and I'm gonna go every year. But he got me to go every year.
Nice.
I haven't told him this, and I'll say it here first.
Wow, breaking news.
I want to try to be there every week. I want to coach one of the teams,
Okay.
but we'll see how time works out and stuff. I'm sure we can work something out. But my man
Okay.
is, like I said, Fresno has been a football city, my whole life. And as I got older, got to high school, we started getting a few guys from the city that was professional caliber players. Quincy Pondexter,
Mhm.
who is a huge part of the Fresno Pro-Am.
Shout out to Quincy.
Yeah, yeah, great dude. When I seen those guys, it was like, man, we about to have some NBA players. We had multiple NFL players from the city, but never really NBA guys. My generation started growing those years
Okay.
later. You have Greg Smith, who went to Fresno State, I think he played 7 or 8 years with Paul George at Fresno State. Then you have Jalen Green, he's arguably the best basketball player out of Fresno for sure.
Jalen Green on the Rockets?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh, I didn't know you went
yeah,
there.
yeah, he's a Fresno
Okay.
he was born in
Uh,
Turlock or Modesto. He grew up in Fresno
okay.
Elementary. He's a Fresno guy. Even in the WNBA, we got Harry McDonald, his
Okay.
number pick in the WNBA from Fresno, California. Like, there's a basketball scene. When I talked to Alton and some other guys that work with him, they was like, we got to highlight this. We have to figure out a way to show the community that we have basketball athletes who are playing professionally and people overseas and college and things like that. But he was like, you and your brother, you're journalists from Fresno, and these were things he wanted to highlight to the community. This event that he put together was so magical and powerful. All right, if you, I don't know if you ever been to Fresno.
Oh yeah, I've been to
So
Fresno.
Fresno, the summer is hot. It's
Mhm.
hot here. It's hot in the middle, right? If it's
Yeah.
triple digits here,
Oh
it's
yeah.
but cools off around 5 o'clock off in Fresno. It's still like 98 degrees.
Oof.
It,
Oh hell
yeah,
no.
nah, it doesn't cool off. Whatever, it cools off here.
Okay.
It don't cool. They rented out this high school gym, Clovis North. I used to coach basketball there.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that. Oh, you
yeah,
did?
yeah. The
Okay.
first year they opened as a school, me and my brother coached the freshman basketball team. We don't need to talk about the record, but
I'm gonna have to look that
if
up.
Mike Brown had our record, he would have been go.
Like that.
They have a huge gym
Okay.
that
Yeah.
the day of the event, the air conditioning broke. They
Oh.
had to bring these giant fans and just stick them at the end of the doors, open all the doors, and it was blistering hot in there. It had to be about 130 degrees,
My
and
God.
nobody
Damn.
left. Nobody left. Everybody stayed. All the players played. There was no injuries. Girls that came to look good to try to catch them a baller. too.
They
Yeah.
stayed? Wow,
It was
okay.
it was fun, man. It was beautiful. It was a whole bunch of black people. It was a whole bunch of everybody to see how you could tell they put a lot of work and effort into making it a community thing. And it
Mhm.
felt just like that. It was a party inside of a basketball gym that didn't include dancing and drinks. So it was great.
Shout out to Fresno Pro-Am, man. I was planning on being there, but I didn't make those plans right away. I procrastinated and I didn't end up going. Now I'm pissed. Like, I know that if I would have driven all the way over, there's no way my ass was not going to leave
Yeah.
for an event that doesn't happen ever so often.
Yeah, it was dope,
I did.
man. It was dope. Looking
Okay.
forward to
Okay.
this. They plan to have it bigger and better, and I'm gonna try to
Okay.
contribute as much as I can.
I love that. Yeah. I think I saw Isaiah Thomas ended up pulling
Yep,
up. Port George, another alumni of the Fresno State Bulldogs as well,
yep,
right?
yep.
Did PG actually play in that game?
He didn't play.
Okay.
I guess that could have been a sign he was
An
dealing with an
injury.
injury then. He
Okay.
kinda shot around and gave out some PS5s.
Okay.
He stayed the whole time, a bunch of pictures and yeah,
I love
it
that.
was dope. Orlando
Love that.
Riding
I saw
Sacramento Kings, he was there because he's
that's
Fresno
right.
State guy.
I saw that. Did Rudy
Bruce,
Gay pull up?
yeah, Rudy Gay,
Okay.
he met too.
That's my
Yeah,
guy.
he was there, cool.
Jaded.
It was nice, and the other rookie from Fresno,
No, I haven't heard of
he,
him.
was the Milwaukee Bucks this season. He was the number 28 pick in the draft.
I don't know too much about AJ Johnson.
Yeah, he's a
I see him. He's a guard. He 23rd
23rd.
overall
There
pick.
you go. Yep.
But he's an alumni of
Yeah.
Fresno State.
Yeah, well, he went to Memorial High School, and from there, he went overseas. I think he went to the NBL, and then
Oh,
he
NBL.
got skipped college.
Wrap this all up as well. Jalen Green, just a little fact check. I was telling you that I was going to look it up. He was born in Merced.
There you go.
Merced. I didn't know that he was from the Valley, which actually is going to be leading up to my next subject. We're going to pivot now a little bit. There's trade rumors here in Sacramento. Jalen Green is one of those pieces that the Kings are probably looking to get. Reed Shepherd and Cam Whitmore. That dude's a baller.
Yep.
Let's talk about Foxy. It's not a secret that Foxy signed a $163 million deal back in 2020 for 5 years. He's eligible to be a free agent after next season. He didn't sign his extension. He wants to get that All-NBA. I've heard reports and interviews from him. He says the money is always going to be there. At this point, he just wants to win. He wants to be in an area, an environment that provides him that chance of winning because everything is lining up for him. He just turned 27 on the 20th.
Yep.
He's in his prime right now, and he wants to really capitalize on the prime years of his career. And for me, honestly, it just doesn't really seem like it's going to be in Sacramento. But yeah, talk to me a little bit more about Foxy and all these trade rumors. Maybe it's getting to some players too, and what you think is ultimately going to happen with Foxy this season or in the offseason.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Like you mentioned, does it look like it's going to happen here? Because that's been my whole thing with the way this roster was constructed. Monty McNair put together a team that can sell tickets and be relevant. But I didn't see the moves that were made as trying to win a championship. You bring in DeMar DeRozan, which is a big name and big piece, and he can still play. Obviously, he's struggling right now. It's a lot of conflicting things being said. De'Aaron's frustration. He's not, but he has to be.
He
Yeah,
is.
he has to be.
For sure.
Because you're saying, all right, Keegan Murray is untouchable. If touchable, and we believe Keegan Murray is going to be a franchise type player, that means we're planning for the future. Or then there's where the way the team is built or the offense is ran for Sabonis. It's built more for Sabonis than Fox. Fox is just a great in Sabonis. Since I even building this team, this future isn't in Mike Brown era and how things have went. I think De'Aaron felt like everything was not like nobody was looking for his best interest. So he's looking at it. I think they bringing Malik over. Maybe they thought that'd be enough to where you bring Malik over here and that's his that appease him. It didn't. I think he wants to win, like rightfully, right. And you're going to win with De'Aaron here. You have to do things. It's a players' league. You have to do things for. You have to make them feel like we are making is because of you. Not because of Sabonis, not because Keegan is untouchable. Keegan compliments you. We want Sabonis to compliment you. And, tenure player and the star all these years. I think he deserves it. He deserves
Mhm.
the team to be built around him. Obviously, Sabonis is going to be Sabonis. And he's great. I think part of this year, the issue, the team completely, with Mike Brown, his departure, I think the guys who are
Mhm.
making the tough choices, they aren't making them. I'll
I
give
agree.
you some. And you have to fully, I think you got to fully commit. The Warriors didn't start winning championships saying, we want Steph and Clay leaders.
Mhm.
They said, no, this is Steph team.
Exactly.
Y'all fall suit. They're still Clay Thompson to be a future Hall of Famer. It's Draymond Green. It
100%.
was Steph team. It was questionable, but they were so good it didn't matter. But
Mhm.
you have to, it still was Steph's team, and I think in order to be a championship team and to build a championship team, it has to be clear who team this is. And I think Aaron, like he has Rich Paul as his agent, so that's conversations that I'm sure Rich has had with LeBron and vice versa. This
Mhm.
information is going to get passed to De'Aaron. The things you need to become a
Mhm.
champ, you need a team to be behind you.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Kings have not, in my opinion, fully committed to De'Aaron or Sabonis. And I think that has to
Mhm.
happen, if De'Aaron stays. I think if they do, they say, we're going to build around you. You are the franchise. I think he stays. I don't think he wants to leave.
Mhm.
He wants to win. That's just the bottom.
You hit it on the nail there, Mark. When a franchise is bought in on a certain player, they'll put action over words. They'll build those pieces around you. Make sure that you're happy. Let you know that you're the guy for the next 3, 5 years.
Mhm.
Everything else is just building
Yep.
blocks. The Kings just really haven't done that. If you're Fox, I'd be frustrated too. You're not winning any games. Your coach calls you out on that late contest on Jay Ivey. These things are just not adding up in the right direction. With the new era with Doug Christie, maybe things might turn up a little
Mhm.
bit. The Kings always do a little better post All-Star break. They can turn on the Jets a
Yeah.
little bit more. There's a little bit more fight. Now the sense of urgency. Obviously last year, road trip out east, playing Boston and
Mhm.
New York, dropping some of those games, the Celtics game too, coming down to the wire when they were right there in that comeback. For me, honestly, Mark, I just think he's going to leave. Accountability hasn't really been there from Fox and Sabonis. It's being reported that Fox did apologize to the team
Right.
in-house after his mistake the other night versus
Mhm.
Detroit. Let's take a look at Foxy. This year making 34 million. Next year is due 37. And then the year that I was talking about earlier, 2026 to 2027, he'll be 29 years of age and he's going to be an unrestricted free
Mhm.
agent. Trade deadline happening around the corner on February 6th. The Kings have a long season to go. They have 24 games until the All-Star break. How do you think this season is going to shape up at the end? Are the Kings going to make the playoffs? Are they going to be a play-in? You said it very good in the beginning. X games back from playoff contention. That's the thing about the West,
Yep.
right? You could have a little win streak and you might be fourth, fifth. Have a little streak of losing some games.
Mhm.
You're going to be in 11 and 12. The Kings are right there. What's your prediction for the rest of the season?
I still right now, man, right now, I still have them. I have them in the play-in now.
Okay.
Even with this tough stretch, because it takes one little run to be right there. As
Mhm.
long as they're healthy. I just think this team, especially with the starting five, I still think they have, when I look at the talent,
Mhm.
I think they have enough to make a play-in. I think there's another move to be made. I would
Yeah.
imagine would be to improve the roster. Assuming they figure out a way to improve the roster, I think they'll make a play-in. But if it goes to where they're trading De'Aaron Fox and getting back, draft me, and it's all about the future. If they improve the roster, play in anything else, they might want to start thinking about Cooper Flag.
The Cooper Flag sweepstakes. I've been talking about it lately. So you think they're going to be in contention? They're 12th. We talked about that earlier. A couple of teams that are not doing as great at the Nuggets and the Timberwolves right now in the 7th and 8th spot. The Lakers, 6th spot. The West, tough. We have the Memphis Grizzlies coming up
Yeah.
on Friday and then Dallas on Monday night. Luka's going to be out for a month.
Yeah.
And then the Kings play against the Lakers. When do they play, Mark? Do they play
Today,
today?
yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Monte not really making changes in the offseason,
Mhm.
especially when the other teams are getting better. They're getting those long athletic wings, which are so coveted. Then rim protection,
Yeah.
points in the paint. I talked about that on the last pod. 76 points against the Denver Nuggets was absolutely dreadful. Those minutes that Sabonis is not on the floor, cleaning up glass. Mike talked about rebounding a lot this season, and the Kings just really haven't done it. One of the biggest criticisms is the Kings don't close out games. Denver, they were up by 10 with 3 minutes left. Obviously, this last game, the Pistons, they were up by a good amount, and they just fell flat.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me about like why the Kings are collapsing in the last couple of minutes of the game when on paper they should be winning?
Right.
They should be extending that lead. But for some reason, teams always find a way to crawl back in the game, and next thing they're winning the game on the Kings.
I don't think the Kings know who they are as a team right now. When we looked at that Pistons game, you know, the Pistons know that they knew that this was I think when they look at Sacramento, they seen them as the better team. You know, at the NBA, so you can win a game
Oh yeah.
any night. It don't matter who you play. I don't think they would argue to say when I look at them, I think they're better. But the one thing that Detroit did that we knew they would do is be physical. They're going to be scrappy. The entire going to fight. They're not going to let up. That as they continue to do what they do, the Kings collapse. That's what Mike Brown. He's been preaching. He's been saying
He has. Oh yes.
Teams are doing the same thing over and over, and that's what makes them who they are. And the Sacramento Kings this season haven't done that at all. They're going to continue to do this, and it's going to work eventually.
Yeah.
You know what we're getting. Points come from any and everywhere. It's like, all right, you look at that Detroit game, right? We're not expecting Trey Lyles to go off for 20 off the bench.
I know, right?
He has his regular night, get blown out that night. You need those guys to have big nights here and there, but as a team in order to be good. And they just don't have that. And that's lapse in the fourth quarter and have bad first quarters too.
Point, especially against the Denver Nuggets. So many dunks in that first quarter. Aaron Gordon and FPJ, Joker, just having a free runway to the rim there with no rim protection.
Crazy.
Insight, Mark. To round things up, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I wanted you to tell us where fans can listen to your work and read some of your columns.
Unfortunately, it's hard to get the same handle on every platform, but I've managed to do it. As nobody wanted to be Mark Haynes NBA, so I am the one and only on every single. You can find me YouTube, Instagram, Twitter /X, Threads. All that is Mark Haynes NBA. Usually post most of my work on all of those platforms. And to find articles with the Sacramento Observer, which is a Black-owned newspaper here in Sacramento.
That's right.
Covers.
Shout out to the Sacramento Observer.
Yeah. Around for years. They're award-winning. It's been a blessing for me to put my name as a part of them. They're covering all Black stories within Sacramento, and you can find my work covering the Kings and local sports, all at sacobserver.com. And you follow, subscribe to the Believe in Kings podcast, 3 in the Paint. I thank you for having me on here, man. Thank you.
This is fun, Mark. Thank you for jumping in the show and giving us some insight into your life and also about the Sacramento Kings right here in the city of trees.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. With that being said, thank you for tuning in to the very end of the show with my conversation with Mark Haynes. Thank you to all my guests this year, Deuce Mason, Chris Hine, Thomas Murphy III, and Mitchell Adams. You can find me on social media on Instagram at Shot Clock Scribbles, TikTok Shot Clock Scribbles. You can also find me wherever you listen to audio, which is where you're probably doing this. You can find me on YouTube, TENDAI530. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you guys stay safe in this new year of 2025. Anything is possible. Later, y'all.